Let's now look at urban settlements. And when we think about urban settlements, most urban settlements tend to be central places. Now, what is a central place? A central place is an urban settlement that is accessible, people can get to it, and provides goods and services to the surrounding population. So when you look at this graphic here, you see the central places are the red towns. They provide goods and services to the surrounding towns, would be those little gray towns. And can you see why they are accessible? Because they're along roads. And so therefore you see what we mean by a central place. It is doesn't necessarily have to be in the center, but it is accessible to the surrounding area. And obviously the one that's most accessible, as you see in the middle there, becomes the larger town. Another type of settlement that we get is the trade and transport city. Now, what are trade and transport cities? These are urban settlements that were established due to trade and transportation. So in other words, it was a means of transport, a port, for example, and then because of that, being a transport area and a trade area, the town could develop there. And the best example in South Africa would be Cape Town. We know that Cape Town historically was developed as a halfway point between Europe and the East. And so the Dutch established the Dutch East India Company, and that was one of their ports at Cape Town. And today, Cape Town becomes a major port as ships travel from the west through to the east. Another type of settlement that we get is a break of bulk settlement. Now, what do we mean by a break of bulk settlement? These are settlements that develop when one mode of transport changes to another. For example, goods could be moved from a ship to a road, or from a ship to rail, or from rail to road. So in other words, they move from one mode of transport to another mode of transport. And here we see an example of Richards Bay. And so what we're seeing in Richards Bay is that there was a change of mode of transport. It's a specialized port that was developed for the export of coal. So railway trucks come in and they drop off the coal, and you can see there that the coal is then carried along conveyor belts and then put onto ships, and these ships then carry the coal for export to the east. The next type of settlement we get is a junction settlement. Now, a junction settlement is where there's a junction, either a road junction or a railway junction. Now, obviously, a railway junction makes more sense for a town to develop there, because the moment you get a junction there, you're getting a lot of opportunities for business. There could be a change of transport there, mode of transport. And this example here we see in South Africa is the example of De Aar. Now, De Aar becomes a major junction point in the Transnet rail network, because now as trains come from the north going down towards the south, they change here in that they change from electrified railway line to electrified railhead to now becoming a diesel electric railhead as it travels through to the Karoo down to the Cape. And so we see that this town, you can see when you look at this Google image, it developed because of a major railway junction that happened there, and that is why the town could develop, because when you look at this town, you see it's developed in a very dry and arid region. So there's no reason for it to be there. And so this is because there was a junction, and at this junction then there was opportunity for trade, there was opportunity for work, and that is why this urban settlement developed here. The next type of urban settlement is a gap settlement. Now, what do we mean by a gap settlement? It's an urban settlement that has a physical gap, such as a pass through the mountain. And when you go down to Cape Town, you get to the town of Worcester, and Worcester then is in the gap in the Cape Fold Mountains. And so that town developed because now through this gap, people could travel down towards Cape Town. And so then, because there's a gap in the mountain, that town could develop as a point of trade. Then finally we get the specialized settlement. What is a specialized settlement? A specialized settlement is a city or town that specializes in a particular activity. It could be a manufacturing town, it could be for tourism, it could be for mining. Now here we see an example where initially this town of Pilgrim's Rest was a mining town. But then when gold mining ceased in the area, the town continued to exist, but now it exists as a museum, so it's there for tourism. So initially it was a town that started because of mining, and now is a specialized settlement that is focused on tourism. So there you get the different types of settlements that we find within urban settlements.